Did you know Miyamoto Musashi pioneered a fighting method called Niten Ichi-ryū, which uses both a long and a short sword at the same time, an approach that revolutionized samurai combat? In this video, how Musashi's two-sword strategy applies to life today, we're going to uncover the hidden philosophy behind his dual-wielding technique and show you how to use it in everyday life. This isn't just about swinging swords. It's about learning to balance adaptability with steadfast focus, so you can tackle challenges with precision and confidence. Stick around to the end, because once you understand how to harness Musashi's two-sword mindset, you'll never look at problem-solving or personal growth the same way again. Number 1. Balance opposing forces in life. Balance is one of those concepts that can sound simple on the surface, but the deeper you dig into it, the more intricate and powerful it becomes. When we talk about Musashi's two-sword strategy, the idea of balancing opposing forces is right at the heart of it. It's not just about mastering two different techniques at the same time, it's about understanding how those techniques, or forces, interact with one another, shaping your decisions and actions in life. Think about it, life isn't a straight line. It's a constant ebb and flow, filled with moments where you have to be strong and moments where you have to be flexible. When Musashi taught the two-sword strategy, he was giving us a tool for dealing with the unpredictability of life itself. The real genius of the strategy lies in the way it blends two opposite ideas, offensive and defensive, into something that works together in harmony. This applies to almost everything in life. There's the constant push-pull of opposing forces. Sometimes you need to be aggressive, to go after what you want, to carve out your own path. At other times, you need to step back, observe, and wait for the right moment. It's not about choosing one over the other, it's about learning when to use each. That's the balance. In life, we tend to fall into patterns. We either push too hard and burn out or hesitate too much and miss opportunities. But Musashi's strategy reminds us that balance doesn't mean being neutral all the time. It means knowing how to switch gears, how to engage both sides of yourself, assertive and patient, fierce and calm, driven and relaxed, at the right times. It's an art, and like any art, it takes practice. But here's where things get interesting. This balance isn't always about having everything in perfect harmony, like some peaceful scene. Sometimes, the tension between opposing forces is what keeps things moving forward. It's the struggle that pushes you to grow. You have to learn to lean into the discomfort of opposing forces, to embrace the uncertainty. Only then can you fully tap into the power that comes from balance. One of the tricky parts about balance is that it's not static. It's fluid, like water constantly adjusting to the shape of the container it's in. One day you might need to be more assertive, and the next, more reserved. It's about adaptability. Life doesn't give us a clear-cut roadmap, but if we learn to balance these opposing forces, we start to see more clearly when to act and when to wait. It's not always about being right in the moment, it's about staying fluid, being able to adjust, and knowing when to shift from one strategy to another. But let's be real, finding this balance doesn't come easy. You'll stumble, you'll hesitate, and you'll act too soon or too late sometimes. That's okay. The process of learning to balance forces in life is part of the journey. It's about knowing that life won't always give you the perfect opportunity, and sometimes you'll have to create that opportunity yourself. Musashi wasn't saying that balance equals perfection, he was saying that balance equals adaptability. So, how does this all tie back to Musashi's two-sword strategy? Well, it's about looking at life as an ongoing battle where you need to adapt to whatever the moment demands. It's not enough to just go forward, nor is it enough to just pull back. Life needs both, and knowing when to switch between them, that's where the power lies. Musashi's strategy wasn't about being rigid, it was about staying in motion, responding to what's in front of you, and being fluid enough to handle whatever life throws your way. The key to balancing these opposing forces in life is awareness. Awareness of your own tendencies, awareness of your environment, and awareness of what's really needed in each moment. When you can harness this awareness, you unlock a deeper layer of control, not over others, but over yourself. And that's where true balance starts. Number 2, use both offense and defense in decision-making. When you think about Musashi's two-sword strategy, you might imagine a fierce battle between two swords, one used for offense, the other for defense. But what if I told you that this concept is just as useful in how we make decisions in our daily lives? It's all about understanding that life isn't always black and white, and sometimes, the right answer lies in balancing offense and defense. When you make a decision, it's easy to go all in, to charge forward with one sword raised high, eyes locked on your goal. But the problem with this approach is that you might miss the bigger picture. You might overlook potential risks or ignore smaller, quieter threats that don't show up until it's too late. Musashi's strategy reminds us that there's wisdom in taking a defensive stance, 2, stepping back, analyzing the situation, and being ready to protect what you've already built. Think about decision-making like a dance between action and reflection. The offensive side comes from that burst of energy, the moment you commit to doing something, pushing forward with intent. But the defensive side? That's the pause, the moment where you evaluate what could go wrong, where you anticipate challenges, and, most importantly, where you protect yourself from those challenges before they even arise. It's not about being passive or scared to act. It's about being smart, understanding when it's time to strike and when it's time to retreat, or at least slow down and rethink. In life, offense is often equated with making a move, whether it's taking a new job, making an investment, or starting a new relationship. The idea of charging forward with full energy is tempting, and sure, sometimes it's necessary. But if you're too fixated on the go button, you can miss out on the need to protect yourself. You could find yourself unprepared, without the necessary resources to handle what's ahead. Here's where defense comes in. It doesn't mean you're avoiding challenges or waiting for something to go wrong. It means that you've thought about the potential risks ahead of time. You've created a plan that accounts for the unexpected. You know that charging ahead without considering all angles is like charging into a battle without a shield. Sure, you might land some hits, but it's only a matter of time before you take a blow that you weren't prepared for. The beauty of Musashi's two-sword approach is that it encourages you to switch between offense and defense when necessary. Sometimes, the best defense isn't to stand still or wait, but to keep moving while being mindful of your surroundings. It's about being fluid, adaptable, and ready to shift gears. You can be aggressive in your pursuit of success, but you can also be cautious and prepared for the unexpected. You don't have to choose between being bold or being careful. You can do both. In life, we often get caught up in the rush to make things happen. We see a problem or a challenge, and we think the only way to solve it is to attack head-on, to push through with everything we've got. But that's where we trip ourselves up. Sometimes, the smartest thing we can do is step back, assess what we can't control, and then strike with precision when the time is right. Other times, we need to come out swinging, ready to face whatever's in front of us. Being strategic with your decisions isn't about picking one sword over the other, it's about knowing when to wield each one. Life is unpredictable, and the landscape is always shifting. You'll never know exactly what's coming, but if you're prepared to alternate between offense and defense, you'll always have a chance to strike when the time is right, and protect yourself when things get tough. It's this balance that creates not just success, but resilience. Musashi's two-sword strategy is about mastering both sides of the equation, and in doing so, learning how to navigate the complexities of life with wisdom and confidence. Number 3, stay flexible and adaptable to circumstances. Musashi's two-sword strategy isn't just a battle tactic, it's a mindset, a way of approaching life that emphasizes flexibility and adaptability. It's about moving with the flow of things rather than trying to force your way through them. In our fast-paced, unpredictable world, we can all benefit from applying this principle to our daily lives. Think of life like a river. You can't control the current, but you can choose how you navigate through it. Sometimes the water is calm, and other times it's rough. Musashi knew that the key to success in combat was not about sticking to a rigid plan but adjusting in real time to the changing environment. If the river is fast, you'll need to adjust your pace. If it's slow, you might find you can drift a bit more, but you still have to be aware of any obstacles that could arise. When you apply this flexibility in your own life, it means being able to pivot when things don't go as expected. We all face moments when life throws us a curveball, and it's in those moments that the real challenge lies. It's easy to get frustrated, to think that your original path was the only one that would work. But the truth is, the world rarely works according to a strict plan. Opportunities and setbacks often appear when you least expect them, and what separates the people who thrive from those who struggle is the ability to adapt. This isn't just about reacting either. It's about staying alert and aware enough to know when a change in course is necessary. It's about reading the situation around you, not just waiting for it to unfold. Like a swordsman who constantly watches his opponent, you need to observe the world and understand that change is constant. You may think you have a handle on things, but life has a way of shifting things around. And when it does, you need to be ready to move with it, not against it. Being adaptable doesn't mean you lack direction or conviction. It's not about abandoning your goals or values. It's about understanding that your path to those goals might look different than you initially imagined. Sometimes, you might need to take a step back or make a move that doesn't seem like the most obvious choice at first. But if you stay open-minded and flexible, you'll be able to see new ways forward that you might otherwise miss. Musashi's two-sword strategy also teaches us that balance is crucial. You're not only using one sword to defend yourself, you're using the other to create openings, to seize the moment when it arises. In life, it's the same. You can't just keep pushing in one direction and expect things to work out. You need to assess your environment, make adjustments, and sometimes make a subtle shift in your approach. The more adaptable you are, the better your chances of catching those small openings and turning them into something bigger. So how does this play out in real terms? Well, it means being able to juggle different priorities, staying open to new opportunities, and being okay with uncertainty. It's about not holding on too tightly to any one thing but instead trusting your ability to adapt and find a way forward no matter what life throws at you. If you try to force things, you'll only get stuck. But if you flow with the situation, you can often find a much smoother path, even if it's not the one you first envisioned. In the end, life isn't about having the perfect plan or always being in control. It's about learning to adapt, to flow with the world around you, and to use whatever tools you have at your disposal in the best way possible. Musashi's strategy isn't just about fighting, it's about living with agility, awareness, and an unshakable belief that you can navigate any situation that comes your way. Number 4, develop mastery in multiple skills. When you hear about Musashi's two-sword strategy, it might be easy to think it's just about fighting, but it's so much deeper than that. Musashi didn't just master one skill and call it a day, he mastered multiple skills, blending them in ways that gave him an edge over his opponents. The principle of developing mastery in multiple skills is one that resonates beyond the battlefield and into our daily lives. In today's world, it's easy to feel like we have to be experts in one thing. Society often pushes the idea of specialization, be the best at one thing and forget the rest. But Musashi's approach challenges that notion. By wielding two swords, he was showing us the power of mastering more than one craft. It's not just about being a jack of all trades, but about developing proficiency in multiple areas, so you can adapt and thrive in different situations. You can think of it like this: if you only focus on one skill, you're limiting yourself. Sure, you might be good at it, But what happens when the situation demands something more? Life isn't static, it's unpredictable. Musashi's two-sword approach is a reminder that we should diversify our skills, because you never know what will come your way. If you can't handle the challenge in front of you with just one sword, the second one might just be the key to surviving, or even thriving. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that mastery takes a lifetime to achieve, but Musashi was about efficiency. He wasn't saying you should spend decades in isolation honing every minute detail of each skill. Instead, he was emphasizing the importance of being well-rounded and adaptive, quickly picking up what you need, and becoming proficient at it. This idea of versatility, of moving through different skills with ease and fluidity, is what makes the two-sword strategy so relevant today. Now, this doesn't mean you need to be an expert in everything. The point isn't to spread yourself so thin that you can't go deep in any one area. Instead, it's about creating a solid foundation in multiple disciplines. You don't need to be the world's greatest at all of them, just enough to use them when the moment requires. Musashi wasn't just skilled with his swords, he was also a painter, a strategist, a writer. The man understood that to excel, you need a range of tools at your disposal. The more tools you have, the more ways you can approach a problem. And let's face it, life often throws us challenges that require a blend of skills. You might find yourself in a position where you need technical expertise, but also the ability to communicate effectively, or the creativity to come up with innovative solutions. Musashi's strategy teaches us that to be truly effective in life, you can't just rely on one sword. You need to build your own arsenal of skills so you can pivot and adapt to whatever life has in store. Developing mastery in multiple skills doesn't mean you have to be perfect at everything. In fact, perfection can be the enemy of progress. Sometimes, getting started with a skill and allowing yourself to fail is more important than trying to get everything right from the get-go. Musashi wasn't about perfection, he was about fluidity, versatility, and adaptability. He knew that being able to shift between different skills, depending on the need of the moment, was what gave him an advantage. It's also worth noting that these skills don't exist in isolation. Much like the two swords in Musashi's strategy, they complement each other. One skill can enhance another. Maybe it's learning a bit of psychology that helps you negotiate better in a business setting, or picking up a musical instrument that teaches you patience and discipline, which then impacts your work ethic in other areas. The more you master, the more interconnected these skills become, creating a synergy that makes you more effective overall. The beauty of this approach is that it's personal. It's about finding the skills that fit you, that serve your purpose in life, and developing them in your own way. There's no one-size-fits-all formula for mastery. Musashi wasn't telling us exactly which skills to master, but showing us the power of being able to pick up and wield multiple tools. It's about taking the initiative to learn, adapt, and refine those tools as you go, so when the time comes to use them, you're prepared. In the end, mastery in multiple skills is about flexibility. It's about approaching life with the mindset that you can tackle challenges from different angles, using a variety of tools. And just like Musashi, who understood that two swords could be more powerful than one, you'll find that the more skills you develop, the more powerful and capable you become. Number 5. Approach problems from different perspectives. When Musashi developed his two-sword strategy, he didn't just focus on being good with a blade. He understood that true mastery goes beyond simply swinging your swords. He knew that success, whether in battle or in life, often comes from how you see the world. Musashi's genius wasn't just in his skill, it was in his ability to approach any situation from multiple angles, to shift his perspective until he found the perfect opening. And that's something we can apply to almost every challenge we face today. Imagine you're facing a tough problem, something that's blocking your path or causing you stress. The instinct is to tackle it head-on, right? You see the problem, you know it's there, and you think that charging straight at it will solve everything. But what if that's not the best way to deal with it? What if the problem isn't just one simple thing? What if it's bigger, more complex, and you need to change how you look at it before you can break it down and find a solution? This is where Musashi's approach comes in. By using both offense and defense, he didn't just rush into a fight. He took time to look at things from every angle, to feel out the rhythm of the battle. In the same way, when we're dealing with life's challenges, the key to progress often lies in seeing things from perspectives we might not initially consider. Sometimes, a problem looks like a brick wall, but if you step back, squint a little, and really study it, you might notice there's a crack in the wall, a doorway you missed. Looking at things from different perspectives doesn't mean simply viewing a situation from the opposite side. It means giving yourself the space to step outside your usual mindset and examine the issue from angles you haven't thought of before. Maybe you need to look at the emotional side of a problem, or perhaps you need to zoom out and take in the bigger picture. Maybe, just maybe, you need to break down your assumptions and ask yourself why you're approaching the problem the way you are. Could there be a completely different approach that hasn't crossed your mind yet? We get so caught up in our own way of thinking that we forget how powerful it can be to pause and just ask, what else is going on here? Musashi's strategy teaches us to be flexible. It teaches us that one weapon, one approach, won't always be enough. You need to adapt, to look at things from different angles, to use both swords, depending on what's in front of you. It's not just about getting a new idea or discovering a solution. It's about training yourself to see everything with new eyes. Sometimes the obvious path isn't the best one, and the thing you thought was a problem might not be the issue at all. The real challenge may lie in something else entirely, waiting for you to discover it. By shifting your perspective, you open up a whole new world of possibilities. It's like looking at a painting from a different spot in the room. Suddenly, the picture comes alive in ways you never imagined. And let's be clear here, changing your perspective isn't about complicating things. It's about simplifying. Instead of getting stuck on one angle, you're giving yourself permission to let the problem breathe, to see all the little pieces that make up the whole. This kind of flexibility is what allows you to move swiftly when necessary, while also being cautious enough to avoid unnecessary risks. Another thing to keep in mind is that switching perspectives isn't just a one-time act, it's a practice. Musashi didn't just wake up one day and suddenly see the world differently. He spent years sharpening his mind and his skill. In the same way, we need to make a habit of stepping outside our own thought patterns, constantly challenging ourselves to question and reflect. Every time you face a problem, ask yourself, what am I missing? How can I see this differently? That constant effort to shift your lens will become second nature over time. In the end, Musashi's two-sword strategy isn't just about dual-wielding weapons. It's about dual-wielding perspectives. It's about learning how to approach life's problems from as many angles as possible, knowing that your first instinct might not always be the best one. Sometimes, the answer isn't straight ahead, it's to the side, or behind you, or from above. It's up to you to turn, pivot, and look at the problem from a fresh angle. When you do that, the world suddenly opens up in ways you might never have expected. Number 6. Leverage the power of duality for personal growth. Musashi's two-sword strategy is all about balance, but it's more than just fighting with two blades at once. It's a deeper, almost philosophical approach to life. The idea of duality isn't just about having two opposing forces, it's about using those forces together to create something greater than either could be alone. When you think about personal growth, this concept can be incredibly powerful. It's about leveraging the strengths of different sides of yourself, understanding that growth often comes from the tension between contradictions. Look, we all have a dual nature. There's the part of us that seeks comfort, that wants to stay in our bubble, to avoid risk and uncertainty. Then there's the part that yearns for challenge, that craves progress and transformation. These two parts might seem at odds with each other, But what if, instead of seeing them as enemies, we viewed them as partners? Musashi understood that you need both swords, one to protect, one to strike. Similarly, in life, you need both sides of yourself to grow. On one hand, there's the side of you that needs structure, the part that craves stability and predictability. This side is important. It gives you the foundation to move forward, to plan, to be grounded in your goals. Without it, you'd be drifting aimlessly, overwhelmed by the chaos of life. But here's the catch: if you hold onto this side too tightly, you risk becoming stagnant. You might avoid risks, hold back from challenging yourself, and miss opportunities for growth. This is where the second sword comes in. The second sword is the part of you that's willing to step outside your comfort zone. It's the part that embraces discomfort, that pushes boundaries, and that is willing to face uncertainty head-on. This side of you is often the one that grows the most, that thrives in the face of adversity. But just like Musashi's strategy of balance, you can't go too far in either direction. If you only ever rely on this second sword, you risk becoming reckless or unfocused. Growth comes not from simply charging forward, but from knowing when to push and when to pull back. The beauty of Musashi's approach is that it forces you to work with both swords, both sides of your personality. Growth isn't just about charging forward without hesitation, but also about knowing when to be strategic, when to step back and assess the situation. The duality is a constant dance. Sometimes you need to be calm and measured, other times you need to be bold and fearless. Musashi knew that being in tune with both sides was what made a warrior truly powerful, and the same is true in life. To make this duality work for you, it's important to recognize that neither side is inherently bad or good, they just are. The part of you that wants security isn't the enemy, it's simply trying to protect you. The part of you that wants to take risks isn't reckless, it's trying to push you forward, to help you grow. But the real magic happens when you can use both forces in tandem, when you can balance the desire for comfort with the need for challenge. This is where true growth lies. Personal growth doesn't come from trying to eliminate one side or the other, it comes from understanding that both parts have a role to play. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to step out of your comfort zone. It's about recognizing that sometimes, the most powerful moves you make are the ones that come from the tension between your desire for safety and your drive for progress. The duality isn't a weakness, it's your strength, your secret weapon. By learning to balance both sides, you unlock the full potential of your growth. So, next time you feel torn between two opposing desires, staying where it's comfortable or taking the leap into the unknown, remember that Musashi's two-sword strategy isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about wielding both, knowing when each is needed, and using them together to carve out a path that is uniquely yours. The tension between these forces can be uncomfortable at times, but it's precisely that discomfort that fuels growth, and ultimately, that's what makes you stronger. Number 7. Be prepared for both challenges and opportunities. Life, much like the art of combat, is unpredictable. And if you've learned anything from Musashi's two-sword strategy, it's that you can't afford to be caught off guard. You've got to be ready for both the punches life throws at you and the golden opportunities that might appear out of nowhere. Musashi's philosophy wasn't just about waiting for the right moment to strike, it was about always being in a state of preparedness, ready to handle whatever comes your way. Now, let's break this down a little. We all know challenges are a given in life. They're inevitable. Some are big, some are small, but they're all part of the journey. And if you're not prepared for them, it's easy to get knocked off course. But here's the thing, being prepared isn't about expecting everything to go wrong. It's about building the mindset, skills, and resilience to handle things when they do go south. Musashi didn't wait for his opponents to make a move before deciding his next step. He was always aware of his surroundings, always ready to act, whether it was defending himself or seizing an opening. But it's not just challenges you need to be ready for. Life isn't all about overcoming obstacles, it's also about seizing opportunities. And just like the challenges, opportunities don't always give you a clear warning before they arrive. They can be fleeting, subtle, or even disguised as something less than promising at first glance. Musashi, with his two-sword strategy, wasn't just preparing for battle, he was always looking for that moment where both swords could be used to their full potential, to gain an advantage and make a powerful move. Life's opportunities work the same way. If you're not ready, if you're not looking for them, you'll miss your shot. Think of preparedness as your secret weapon. It's not about anticipating every single outcome, but rather about building your capacity to react to anything that comes your way. It's about creating a foundation where you can flow between different approaches, depending on the situation. Sometimes life requires you to step back and defend. Other times, you'll need to be aggressive, charging forward and seizing the moment. Musashi's two swords, defensive and offensive, are a great metaphor for the two mindsets you need to adopt in life, one to handle difficulties, and one to grab opportunities as soon as they arise. But here's the tricky part, you don't always know when to switch between them. That's where true mastery comes in. It's about being adaptable. You need to know when to fight and when to retreat. When to hold back, and when to take the leap. The key to all of this is awareness. When you're in tune with your environment, when you've done the work to prepare yourself mentally and physically, you can pivot more easily. Musashi didn't just master his swords, he mastered the ability to read the situation, to recognize both threats and openings. And that's exactly what we need to do in life. So how do you prepare for both challenges and opportunities? It starts with creating a mindset of readiness. A mindset that accepts both as part of the same equation. Challenges can feel like setbacks, but they're often just opportunities in disguise. The hard times give you lessons, tools, and grit that make you better prepared for the next one. Opportunities, on the other hand, need to be recognized and acted upon quickly. You have to be agile, quick on your feet, and willing to take risks. Preparation doesn't just come from acquiring knowledge or building skills, it comes from being mentally strong enough to handle the full spectrum of life. You need emotional resilience, the kind that allows you to recover from setbacks without losing momentum. You need the confidence to know that you can handle the worst, while still having the drive to chase after the best. Musashi's philosophy shows us that it's not just about fighting battles, it's about being prepared for everything life throws at you, from the good to the bad. In the end, being prepared for both challenges and opportunities is about building a system within yourself that allows you to navigate life with ease. You can't predict everything, but you can create a mental framework that keeps you grounded, no matter what comes your way. Just like Musashi didn't wait for an opportunity to strike, you shouldn't wait for life to tell you when to act. Be ready. Be adaptable. And when the moment comes, whether it's a challenge you need to face head-on or an opportunity you need to grab, you'll be prepared to use both your swords to their full potential. Number 8. Improve your efficiency by balancing effort and rest. When we talk about Musashi's two-sword strategy, it's easy to get caught up in the idea of constant action. After all, he was a legendary swordsman, and you might think that being on the offense, always moving, always fighting, was the key to his success. But if you take a deeper look, you'll notice that Musashi wasn't just about relentless hustle. He knew when to strike hard, but he also understood the importance of taking a step back, of resting, and of allowing yourself the space to recover. And that's exactly what we can apply to our own lives today. In the modern world, we're constantly told to go, go, go. Work hard, be productive, always push forward. And while effort is essential, what Musashi's strategy teaches us is that there's an art to balancing that relentless pursuit with moments of pause. Musashi didn't just swing his swords without thinking. He was strategic, using his energy efficiently, choosing when to expend his full force and when to pull back. This balance between effort and rest is what allowed him to maintain his edge, to stay sharp, and to ultimately come out on top. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In today's world, it's easy to get trapped in the cycle of I need to work harder, I need to do more. But pushing yourself too hard, without giving your body or mind time to recover, leads to burnout. Musashi understood that even the best swordsman needs to pause, gather strength, and regain focus. It's the same in life. Without balance, you won't be able to sustain high performance over the long term. You'll burn out, mentally and physically, and lose the ability to see things clearly. The trick isn't just about working hard, it's about working smart. Knowing when to push yourself to the limit, and when to dial it back and recover. Imagine your effort as a blade. If you keep swinging it non-stop, it'll dull over time. But if you take the time to sharpen it, to rest, it becomes sharper, more effective, and more capable of cutting through the challenges ahead. Effort is essential, yes, but it's not about how much you do. It's about how much of your energy you're wasting versus how much you're investing in the right moments. Musashi's two-sword strategy also teaches us that there's power in stillness. Sometimes, the most effective thing you can do is step back and observe. Musashi wasn't always fighting. He spent years studying, watching his opponents, understanding the world around him. In the same way, rest is a chance for you to recharge, sure, but it's also a chance to reflect, to think, to plan your next move. It's in those moments of stillness that your best ideas and strategies emerge, because you're not caught up in the chaos of constant action. Let's think about this in terms of energy. In the modern world, energy isn't just about physical exertion. It's also about mental and emotional reserves. Musashi understood the importance of staying calm and collected, never exhausting himself by overcommitting to one thing. This kind of balance helps you avoid the common trap of doing too much at once, of spreading yourself thin, and of ultimately feeling overwhelmed. The real key to efficiency isn't in doing everything at once. It's about knowing when to apply force and when to pull back. When you're too focused on hustling, you often end up scattered, your mind racing, your body fatigued, and your work less impactful. But when you find that rhythm, when you know when to step forward and when to step back, you become more effective. You're not just moving for the sake of moving. You're being intentional about your actions, using your energy in a way that brings the greatest return. So, how can we bring this balance into our everyday lives? It's all about the ebb and flow. After you've put in intense effort, take time to rest. Don't just rest passively, though, rest with purpose. Use your downtime to recharge, to let your mind wander, to reflect on what's working and what's not. Then, when the time comes to act again, you'll be sharper, more focused, and ready to move with purpose. Just like Musashi balanced his two swords, you can balance your effort and your rest. It's not about being constantly in motion. It's about knowing how to align your actions with the right moments of recovery, so that when it's time to strike, you're at your peak. Number 9. Overcome adversity by maintaining control of both mind and body. Musashi's two-sword strategy isn't just about mastering technique with a blade, it's about mastering yourself, your mind, your body, and how they work together in the face of adversity. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that success comes from external forces, skills, opportunities, timing, but Musashi knew that true mastery starts from within. The real battle isn't always against others or the world, it's about maintaining control when everything around you seems out of control. When life throws curveballs, the first instinct is often to react. Maybe you feel the tension in your shoulders, the knot in your stomach, the anxiety bubbling up. These physical reactions are normal. But what Musashi understood was that true strength isn't about ignoring these sensations. It's about taking control of them, finding a way to ground yourself both mentally and physically, and then acting with intention, not impulse. That's where the power of duality comes in, controlling both mind and body to maintain a balanced response. When adversity strikes, it's easy to lose focus. You start spiraling, thoughts racing, emotions pulling you in different directions. But here's the thing, the more you let those thoughts run wild, the less control you have. Musashi didn't just react to the situation around him, he took a moment to center himself, to regain composure. His mind was sharp because it wasn't cluttered with unnecessary distractions. He maintained focus by grounding himself, not letting his emotions dictate his actions. This kind of mental control is a skill that you can develop, but it takes practice. It's about creating space between the stimulus and your response. That moment of pause, whether it's a deep breath, a moment of reflection, or simply a few seconds of quiet, allows you to regain your clarity. In the midst of chaos, the ability to stay calm is what separates those who survive from those who flounder. Musashi's control wasn't just physical, it was mental too. He knew that if his mind wavered, his body would follow. But it doesn't stop with the mind. You can have the sharpest thoughts in the world, but if your body isn't in sync, it's all for nothing. Your body is the vessel that carries out your actions, and if you let it fall into disarray, your responses will be sluggish and ineffective. This is where physical control comes into play. Musashi didn't just wield his swords with precision, he honed his body to be as sharp as his mind. Every movement, every stance, every breath was calculated, deliberate. When your body is in tune with your mental state, your actions become more fluid, more controlled. Think about it, when your body is tired, weak, or in discomfort, it's harder to stay focused. Your mind starts to drift. The body and mind are intertwined, and neglecting one means weakening the other. To truly overcome adversity, you need to ensure that both are working in harmony. Physical fitness, energy, and well-being are essential to keep your mind clear and your actions purposeful. It's the foundation that supports the mental discipline you need in tough times. But it's not just about training your body to be stronger, it's about learning how to listen to it. Musashi's strategy involved a kind of responsiveness, not rigid, but adaptable. You have to be attuned to your physical state, knowing when to push through fatigue and when to give your body the rest it needs. Overextending yourself doesn't lead to mastery, it leads to burnout. The key is balance. Control isn't about exerting force non-stop, it's about knowing when to act and when to hold back, when to drive forward and when to conserve energy. When you're facing challenges, whether it's stress, pressure, or an unexpected setback, staying grounded in both mind and body becomes crucial. When you're feeling overwhelmed, your mind will try to take over, creating worry and anxiety. But if you're aware of how your body feels, you can guide your mind back to a calm, centered place. Likewise, if your body is tense, stiff, or exhausted, you won't be able to think clearly. By keeping both in check, you create a feedback loop of strength. Your body supports your mind, and your mind supports your body. Musashi's two-sword strategy teaches us that mastery isn't about being invincible in one area. It's about mastering the whole of yourself, knowing when to call on your mental clarity and when to rely on your physical resilience. Adversity will always come, but it's how you respond that determines your success. By keeping your mind clear and your body strong, you'll find that you're not just surviving the storm, you're learning to dance with it. Number 10. Focus on both long-term goals and immediate actions. When we think about Musashi's two-sword strategy, it's easy to get lost in the idea of the two swords themselves, the offensive and defensive techniques, but one of the deeper lessons is how Musashi balanced the long-term and the immediate. The strategy isn't just about what you're doing right now, it's about how every action today connects to the bigger picture. And that's something we can all take into our lives today, figuring out how to keep an eye on both the distant horizon and the ground beneath our feet. Let's dive into the balance between long-term goals and immediate actions. In life, it's easy to get caught up in the future, the dream of what could be, the vision you're working toward. But here's the catch, If all you do is focus on the future, you might miss the opportunities in the present, the small wins that, when stacked up, actually push you forward toward that big vision. It's like planning a journey across the country but forgetting to check the map for the next turn. Without paying attention to the now, you'll find yourself lost or worse, stagnant. Musashi understood this deeply. His two-sword approach wasn't just about holding back for the right moment or charging forward at full speed. It was about navigating both, taking the long-term strategy and breaking it down into tactical, immediate steps that keep you moving forward. You can't just wait for the future to happen, you've got to make it happen with what you do in the present. Think of it like planting a tree. You've got this big vision of a mighty oak, but you don't just stand there and will it into existence. You water the seed, tend to it every day, and make sure it gets sunlight. Each day's action is tiny on its own, but over time, it adds up. Musashi's strategy reminds us that small, deliberate actions, done consistently, contribute to the larger picture. The key is balancing this day-by-day grind with keeping an eye on where you're headed. Here's the tricky part, though. It's easy to get sucked into the day-to-day and forget about the bigger picture. You can find yourself doing busy work, working hard, but not really getting anywhere. Musashi's two-sword strategy wasn't just about being efficient in the moment, it was about making sure that the work today was still aligned with your ultimate goals. It's like practicing your moves for hours and hours, but always making sure those moves are moving you closer to your end goal. It's about strategy and execution working hand in hand. One sword focuses on the immediate, reacting to what's in front of you, taking action based on what's happening right now. The other sword is more about the long-term view, seeing the bigger picture and understanding how each immediate action fits into the grand design. Together, they work in tandem. If you spend too much time focusing on immediate results, you'll burn out. But if you only focus on the distant future, you'll find yourself waiting for things to happen instead of making them happen. This balance is about recognizing that both the future and the present are connected. The future won't happen if you don't take consistent action in the now. And the now won't have meaning if it doesn't contribute to something larger. Every small victory, every action you take today, should bring you closer to where you want to be. Musashi wasn't just a fighter, he was a strategist. He knew that to win the battle, you had to think not just about the next move, but about how that move fit into the war. Life's the same way. So how do you achieve this balance in your own life? It starts by setting clear long-term goals, something that gives you a sense of direction. But then, you need to break that down into small, actionable steps. It's easy to get lost in big dreams and forget about the work that's needed to get there. Musashi's strategy teaches us that every action, no matter how small it feels, plays a part in achieving that grand vision. And don't be fooled into thinking that this is all about efficiency. It's not just about getting stuff done, it's about doing the right things. The immediate actions you take today should serve a purpose that pushes you closer to your goals, even if it's just a tiny step. Sometimes it's a matter of refining what you're doing in the present, sometimes it's about adapting your course based on what you've learned. Musashi's two-sword strategy isn't rigid, it's adaptable, and so should your approach to both immediate action and long-term planning. At the end of the day, Musashi teaches us that success doesn't come from focusing exclusively on either the present or the future. It's about syncing them up, making sure your day-to-day actions align with the vision you're working toward. When you do that, you're not just moving through life blindly. You're moving with purpose, using each step to build towards something greater. And that's how you win, not just in battle, but in life. And that's how Musashi's two-sword strategy can be applied to your life today. Whether you're balancing multiple challenges, opportunities, or goals, mastering the art of adaptability and focus will make all the difference in your success. If you found this video useful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little more balance in their life. Keep honing your skills, stay agile, And always remember, success comes from mastering the art of duality. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strategic, and keep moving forward.